All right. I find this one pretty interesting because this goes back into the 70s. So you could have been born in the 80s, you could have been born in the 90s, you could have been born in the millennium or the 2000s. We know what has been going on during the time of us living. We know there always has been black versus white. So, but this is interesting because this is the 70s. And in some of the beginning of this video, the things that this Reverend expresses is like, it's crazy because, he mentions how black people is no longer going for it. We see it. We know what's going on. It seems like y'all taking this to have like, it's a party to y'all, but we're not having the fun that you're having. But I'm going to play some of it. I'm going to talk a little bit and play some of it. The whole video actually is like 23 minutes, or 24 minutes. So I may play all the video, I may not. But yeah, when you watch this video, I would like for y'all to leave some comments on here and let me know what you think. And I didn't even listen to the whole thing yet. But the little bit I heard, I said, okay, this sounds like something that, people need to hear. And I tell people a lot of times, it's the timeline. So when they tell you certain things about Black Wall Street and it's like, how do you get this money? Or whatever the timeline is, the timeline also makes a difference. Martin Luther King, James Baldwin, the timeline. But check it out, though. Hey, and by the way, thanks for coming by.
Everybody knows police brutality exists. For police officers to take our time to waste the time of an entire nation and talk about they never heard of police brutality, they don't know what black people are talking about, they can't prove it. We know in Detroit, anytime a black person is brutalized by the police, he goes into court and he's arrested for assault and battery. Now the basic issue is so simple and nobody will even touch it because you're afraid to touch it. You are deliberately trying to evade the issue. Everybody is talking.
Reverend Clegg, if you can hear me.
The thing is that in the United States we are engaged in a power struggle between black people and white people. You don't want to say it. You don't want to hear it said. You want to talk to somebody else. You got a nut sitting there someplace who says he's a police official who hasn't said one thing all night. There is a power struggle going on, and black people have decided they're not going to tolerate oppression any longer. Now, police brutality is a very deliberate thing. It's a part of American life. America has decided that black people are to be kept in subjection. It's an army of occupation that the white power structure keeps in the black ghetto. We know, now don't talk about they are there, how what is the incident, how it is. You know what it is.
Reverend Clegg, let me ask you a question.
The power structure knows it. White people know it. Throughout America, white people know what white policemen are doing.
Let me ask you a question, Professor Reverend Clegg.
People are not going to permit police brutality to go on.
Reverend Clegg.
City in America.
Reverend Clegg.
We had in almost 100 cities race violence last summer. If police brutality continues, we'll have it in 200 cities next summer. Now, white people know that. Something has got to be done about it. We are wasting time. Let's come to the issue.
I can't seem to get Reverend Clegg's ear, and without seeming to seem irreverent or disrespectful, we're going to shift to Philadelphia, where the chief of police of Detroit is in the Philadelphia studio, Chief Bassell.
All right, I didn't get this far, but we about going to the chief of Detroit. But there's things the Reverend says back in the 70s we could see now. You got people, there's plenty of names, Sean Bell. I mean, the list goes on. And for him to say black people is not going to take this any longer, black people, we know what's going on. We do. Some people of our complexion still don't know what's going on. But for the ones like us that knows what's going on, look where we at. You still got racist issues. You still got these things where there's scenarios, white cops, the victim is black. selling cigarettes, get choked out. I forgot the other guy name. 3 cops, they gunned him down because he had a wallet. They said the African guy wallet was a gun. I mean, there's many of these stories to show you that there's an offset balance in our society. And it's clear to see how it is directly implemented. Now, they use different methods at times. That what might throw you off. But I agree with a lot of what the Reverend said. But the thing is, black people not having it. We still got the same power struggle continuing. And it's the same story. Oh, well, the cops may get prosecuted because, you know what? The feds is coming in. The feds is going to look over the case. And it's about time they do some goddamn jail time. And then the feds look over the case. And in the same scenario, the cop goes home. And it's like, hey. So let's see what this goddamn police officer has to say from Detroit. I think they said he was the chief. But let's see what he got to say. Because listening to both sides makes a difference. That's how you can win or can lose the debate.
Can you add something to this dialogue, Mr. Parcell?
Yes,
You're the president, I believe, of the Detroit Police Officers Association. Are you on leave from your duties as chief?
I'm not the chief of police. I'm the head of the Police Officers Association.
I stand corrected. Please go ahead.
I'd certainly like to answer the Reverend Cleage. I think there's been many self-appointed leaders throughout the Negro community who has stated that they represent the Negro. And I think it's a proven fact that in these areas where they had a vote for police officers, and right in Watts, right after the riot there, they voted on a pension system for the Los Angeles police officers, and it collected 75% out of the Watts area. In Detroit, where there was over 600,000 Negroes, very few of these people participated in the riot. And I think that in the next week, there's going to be a committee of Negro leaders, business leaders, stand up and make a statement, make a combined statement that no one speaks for them. Rat Brown don't speak for them. Reverend Cleage doesn't speak for them.
Officer Parcell, would you address yourself more specifically to the problem in Detroit rather than the problem elsewhere?
Yes, I think that the Reverend Cleage himself
Yeah. This is like, well, police, especially the higher level you are, I don't know. I guess you got to be political. Because politicians, when I was doing my earlier years of studying certain things about books I was reading, things to look for, politicians, to this very day, does what he doing. You heard the interviewer? Look, stick to the subject, man. Stick to the subject. You over here, you down there, you beneath the table. So they don't like to answer questions, and they give you this flip-flop, I'm going in, but they never go in the water. They get to the water, they don't go in. And you're like, come on now, we ain't gonna wait out here for nothing. Get in the water, guy.
It's that he speaks for the people of Detroit. I have to say that in Detroit, that there were over 600,000 Negroes in Detroit, and certainly they did not participate in any riots. Reverend Cleage has stated that the only thing that the riot proved was that the Negroes could uprise, and it did not prove anything because it was fought to a standstill. And I think that he made a statement that if he had help from other Negro leaders like Carmichael and Rat Brown, that certainly it would not be a standstill and they would have won. Now, I ask him, what did the Negro community...
Now, I agree with that. Why? Because in the later years, sometimes they say it's the wisdom that kicks in. So Malcolm X gave a speech like, look, man, I represent black people. I understand you're black activists. We all want what's best for our people. But, you know, y'all be with this Jesus Christ and this white man figures. But, look, man, we all got to have a common goal, which is our people. So, as FOI, Malcolm X, Black Islam Nation, I'm going to work with you, brothers. And if we work together, we could do a lot more together. But the separation is, religion, for one, is what separated most of our activists So if you notice, more that was like into the Christian or Baptist, they would more communicate, and somebody like Malcolm X would be more like an outcast. As I said, later years in time, the wisdom, extra, it would make more sense if we group up together, take all our resources, all our peoples, and we could come to a bigger situation. And hopefully, it's going to turn out as a struggle, but at the end, we won something that's worth the fight.
The Negro community has come forward to the police department.
If you haven't felt the economic tsunami that's coming at us, then you haven't been to the grocery store or the gas station. It's coming.
For more police protection. They want protection. They have asked for more community programs, and I'm happy to say that in our letter to the police commissioner, we too have requested more police community relations, and I think that they are about to set up a storefront system in Detroit where patrolmen will be involved in it, where they will be talking to the people in the community. But at the same time, when we are charged with defending ourselves, certainly we are here in defense of the police department. We're here in defense of all policemen. Reverend Clegg, excuse me, Reverend Clegg.
I'd like to answer the Reverend also. He is the one that advocated that the police department join rifle clubs so they could get superior weapons to kill black people during the next revolution.
I would like to answer him for that. Reverend Clegg, let me just...
When we talk about the revolution, what comes to my mind is when people be like, we waiting for Jesus to come. Because when you go into the story of Jesus, depending if you're dealing with Christianity or you're dealing with Islam, either way, Jesus coming back, the Messiah coming back, he's going to clean up the earth, he's going to get rid of the big demon, the Dajjal, maybe go Lucy, whatever the demon is, he's going to get rid of it. Basically, the whole story is a revolution. You know what I'm saying? Turning the world back into a utopia. So yeah, this is how I feel about when they say things like this. For the next revolution. What next revolution? How many things has black people still been fighting for over the years? Things where I won't say what probably should have been done, but we know what could have probably or should have been done in that situation that, hey, it didn't go down like that.
Understand the basic issue which is still being avoided in Detroit.
You're avoiding my questions, Reverend Clegg.
Detroit has advocated superior weapons for the white police department, the Army of Occupation. He has advocated $9 million, and I'd like to have a witness say something about the Stoner rifle, which is the most deadly weapon ever conceived, that is now being purchased in huge quantities by the Detroit Police Department. And I'd like to ask Reverend Charles Butler, who's a pastor of the New Calvary Baptist Church and the chairman of the Defense Committee of the Interfaith Emergency Council, to say a word on this Stoner rifle, which the Detroit Police Department is getting together.
I'd like to answer him on something he's talking about. Wait just a minute. Let's get the Reverend's colleague here. But Reverend, please keep that little thing in your ear. I'm having difficulty asking you questions. But go ahead and let the gentleman comment about the weapon.
Reverend Butler, talk about that weapon that they get together.
One of the reasons the heat is raised in Detroit and will probably remain high is the Stoner rifle requested for purchase by the Detroit Police Department. This rifle is a combat assault weapon, caliber .223, extremely accurate, that can be fired as a semi or as a fully automatic weapon with a muzzle velocity of 3,300 feet per second and a range of 1.5 miles. It has been demonstrated as capable of piercing incredible thickness of both soft steel and masonry. The bullet begins to tumble upon impact with target, boring, tearing, shocking, mutilating, maiming, and killing, leaving gaping holes in its target. A soldier recently returned from Vietnam told me this week that in the zone where he was, the Stoner rifle now in use there was considered so deadly that it was fired only on orders from an officer of captain's rank or higher. I am therefore deeply distressed that a civil agency wants a combat assault weapon and would like to know why. I am also distressed at the destructive power of the Stoner rifle or other high-velocity rifles and the likelihood that many innocent people can be killed or permanently maimed by its use, even people locked in their homes, since the rifle will shoot through masonry.
Reverend, perhaps we can ask the Detroit police.
Now, this is the thing, right? Man, the stuff you know and learn, but can't remember when needed. The thing about this, military rifle, whatever it is called for, they said that earlier he's working on programs, or Detroit police is working on programs, communicating with the people in the areas that they patrolling. But then, why would you request a rifle? Maybe it's pretty to you. Maybe you don't know the superior damage it does. But after you've been schooled on, you've been informed, look, this is the damage, here's some videos, let's go out to the field, do some demonstrations. And in your head, you like, we need this to control black people who probably got a handgun. Some of these guns is close to handmade guns. But obviously, they're not having powerful weapons like assault weapons where they can retaliate back. Biggest gun is a shotgun, maybe, right? So why would you want this kind of gun to patrol people when your job is to protect and serve? So they're going to serve you, all right.
Officer who is in Philadelphia a little later, the answer to your question of why they're doing this. But meanwhile, I'm going to interrupt you for just a minute to ask Dr. Reese, in view of the fact that Detroit is a very familiar neighborhood to him, his headquarters are in Ann Arbor.
Yes, before they go on, what I want to say about this. There's a movie way back in the days, if you're familiar with the group Onyx. It was three guys that had the boy heads straight out of Queens, New York. Onyx, Onyx, la, la. All right. So now, one of them, maybe it was both, but one of them was definitely in the movie Fredro Starr. And there was some white man, he was getting them guns. I forgot the white man background. But yeah, the honest fella in the hood, he got him some guns, he's selling guns. Now when you go to the George Lucas movie, right, they show you that the military was bringing guns in. So when you hear about a certain kind of guns, and you said this is the ghetto, could be Detroit, could be LA. Because at one time in LA, there was like these game bangers, they got AK-47 rifles. So you got to ask yourself, are they getting these guns out the store? Especially some of them are already felons. Where are they getting AKs from? What kind of AKs are they? Who's using these AKs right now? China? America? Who? So yeah, that's what I'm going to say right there. Military plays a big part, like I said, a lot of times to a lot of people. Like I used to say in my live cast, and I try to, inform the people. And I was to give them certain scenarios, and sometimes I was to play certain videos. But the military has a lot to do with urban areas. It's just not the government, far as your governor, your mayor, your state senator, the military. You might not hear their name involved in things, but they part of the table. When it comes to making decisions, what's going to go on in these ghettos, what's the ideas that should go on in these ghettos. Yeah, the idea is just as strong as you hearing the president talk on your live television.
About this in terms of weapons, and then I want to go for a reaction to Dr. Poussaint about this whole issue of lethal weapons and non-lethal weapons. Do they achieve any salubrious objective?
I doubt whether an armed police in the sense of the Stoner rifle is what we want in a democratic society. I doubt whether we want to calculate a policy of policing that is based on the use of weapons against the citizenry. And I certainly, for one, would question seriously the basis on which such a policy is made.
Dr. Poussaint, have you got some reactions of your own to this kind of technique.
Yes, I have some reactions to that. I think it seems that police are more concerned with putting down riots and enforcing law, and don't seem to be concerned with some of the causes that are leading to some of the distress into the riots. So they react with sort of repressive measures, and we're going to suppress more people, and we're going to kill them, and so on. Now, I think this whole question of these new weapons that police are getting is getting quite out of hand, and I think in particular, besides these rifles, the chemical mace, which is a tear gas spray that's been purchased in large quantities by many police departments around the country.
Before we go into the techniques and technicalities of mace, I want to interrupt to ask Mr. Parcell in Philadelphia, the president of the Detroit Police Officers Association, if he has any thing that he wants to say about this stoner rifle in Detroit, the question that was raised by the Negro clergyman. Can you hear me, Mr. Purcell?
Yes, I'd like to just...
Well, I ain't never been hit with mace, right? But I have been hit with pepper spray when I was a little upstate. And man, I thought I was going to lose my eyes. And then the officer came with a water hose. I was like, what is this? They about to do some real Negro-ish white. What the hell? What the fuck? So my eyes is like, I'm like, yo, I can't. So he gave a hose. He's like, nah. Because first the other officer was doing it. And then it was just like the burning. I couldn't resist it. It wouldn't stop. So I said, yo, I need more water. He came with the hose again. I'm like, yo, but that pepper spray, oh, man, that is the most craziest weapon. But if you could so-called contain a suspect this with pepper spray, no gunfire, because I'm quite sure that's supposed to have been the logic. Get close enough, pepper spray them, take them down, weapons, confiscate whatever, and, hey, call it a day.
Just comment on the last gentleman that said that the police are getting more interested in riots and crime rather than in the causes. I want to tell this gentleman that the police officers, it's not his job for causes. We are supposed to be fighting crime and the riots or whatever the situation is. I think if we were allowed to do that and let other people handle the problem. But I have to go along with this rifle. They assume that we have hundreds of rifles. We are only asking for 150 for a specialized crew because we have no way of fighting snipers other than...
Okay, we talking about urban neighborhoods, and he's saying they have no other way of fighting snipers. Okay, once again, we in urban neighborhoods, and they talking about rifles. Now, earlier, one of them mentioned Democrats. As Democrats, we don't want this policy. This is not a good policy to have such strong weaponry inside these neighborhoods. Well, I want to also say this before I forget. Dealing with numerology. I'm not going to go into deep, but people who knows what I'm talking about know. Earlier when he was like, yo, there's 6,000 people, he mentioned it more than once. So I don't know if he mentioned it 2 or 3 times, but if he mentioned it 3 times, 666, 2 times 66. But the other guy definitely said 9,000. And as I said before, 9 upside up is the number 6. So 9 means 6, 6 means 6. So now here, he said 150. You know what 1 plus 5 is? And drop the 0, what you have? So they do talk in symbols. They do talk in codes. People like, oh, the Egyptians, the hieroglyphics, and the Da Vinci Code. These people's whole life is dealing with codes and symbols to keep me and you dumb as possible.
And a specialized crew, special trained and under a command, and we need something like this.
Mr. Parcell, let me, I don't want you to, I want you to keep right on it, but I want to interject something that I was informed about the other day, and that is this, that in 23 riot cities, that were studied meticulously by the Kerner Commission on Urban Disorders and others. So far, there has not been one proved death due to civilian sniping. Now, that isn't to say that there wasn't sniping.
I would like to answer you on
Now,
that.
wait just a minute, Mr. Harrington.
Now, going back to how the president at the time, Black Panthers era, right? He said the Black Panthers, we gotta get rid of them. So that's how you dealing with these people or having some communication to sit down. No. He came up with, look, they're working with Russia, the enemy. The Black Panthers are communists. And it's like, what level of Black Panthers was able to communicate with overseas and also exchange information for the things that's going on inside places where the information to their own people, like me and you, is unclassified. So what power, what connections did Black Panthers have to retrieve information, vital information? How they said it? The information is a deadly cause to America, or it could destroy America. What kind of information? They had an information center. But what I'm asking you as an audience, what power and what real connections the Black Panthers had to be communicating with Russia to take down America if that was the scenario? So the point, they make up things, throw it out there, push it, and try to keep you convinced that they're doing the right thing.
I'd like to ask you why did they bury the captain, the fire captain in Detroit?
Just a minute, Mr. Harrington. I was asking him a specific question about sniping.
Well, when you say proof, I mean, this is a whole problem with sniping. This was a warlike condition that we got into. We certainly did not want to get into this. We were not prepared for it. Consequently, we are asking for these rifles. We want to prevent trouble. We're not asking, they said we're out here trying to kill black people. We're trying to save everybody's people. We're not out here to kill anybody. And we need some defense. I think that the people have a demand for protection of property and their life. We're not out here to kill people. Now, I was asked, isn't 43 people enough? And I said, it's too many.
No. Well, how about the fellow that is arming himself towards the police? No one seems to mention here that these black militant civil rights groups are arming themselves today with automatic weapons. They have shotguns. They are building stockpiles of Molotov cocktails. They have all other assorted homemade weapons that they have made, all to direct at the police. They have one.
Now, what he telling you is, we want superior weapons to keep control of the ghettos of these Negroes. Now, the New Jersey police is like, look, man, y'all ain't talking about us, man. Our lives is in danger, man. These black guys, they up on roofs and they get liquor, bottles of alcohol, and they stuff cloths inside of them and they set them on fire. Y'all got grenades in this town. Y'all have gas cans. Y'all have shields. So with all this protection, vests, black people was this much of a threat for having rifles and going to the liquor store, gathering a bunch of bottles to throw cloths in so they could go light it up against police. This is a big threat, isn't it? I know it is.
One idea. Kill Whitey. Kill the white devil. Kill the police.
Patrolman Kowaleski, let me ask you this. As you know, members of the National Rifle Association are not only encouraged to have weapons of various kinds, but it's made easy for them to get weapons under the auspices of the federal government. Would you say that they should be treated in a different way than black citizens in terms of access to weapons?
I don't see the connection between...
1776, one of the greatest years, the independence, the Declaration, will help put more slavery on us, and I guess they didn't realize it and looked at it in that form. But
between the National Rifle Association, of which I...
1776, even to this day, we got the amendment rights and so forth that, you know, a citizen of America is able to carry a gun. They said this was due to the forefathers because the forefathers knew that one day the authority or those in authority may rise up against the people in a racist manner or maybe on some ignorant corruption. Either way, as a citizen of the country, it is your right to hold a firearm. Basically, they're telling you here, even as a black American, Negro, African American, why do you even want a firearm? Why should you be carrying a firearm? But you are an American citizen.
I am a member, and in which I say is a highly respected organization. If people got weapons from the Rifle Association, they did it under false colors. They falsified records. They falsified government records. And if I am not mistaken, if this can be proven, these people can be prosecuted for falsifying these records, in which they should. What is their purpose and their object and their reason for getting these automatics?
So it's really, it's a great business to have. So you're looking.
Of course. Chime right. This is Professor Reese wants to ask you a question, Patrolman Kowaleski. Can you hear him?
People in Newark would want to.
Yeah, messed up a bit right there. But look, he said that the blacks with the guns to attack police, I guess, to get police out the way. But like I said before, 1776 is the reason why you is supposed to be able to this day to carry a gun as an American citizen. So when you look at the timeline, like I was saying before, the timeline makes a difference. So in the timeline, Negroes don't deserve to have guns. They're going to raise up against the police. But maybe they want the guns also because what the police are doing. You're not robbing nobody. You standing on a block, 2, 3 black guys. Police patrol the car, 1 car, 2 cars deep. Hey, what you niggas doing out here? Over here, oh, you drinking? You might get your head whipped in. You might get beat up. You don't know what's going to happen. You might even get shot in the process. So at some point, you're like, okay, police is not our enemy, but if you're getting beat up for drinking out of a bottle, if you get beat up because it's 4 or 5 of y'all, and y'all walking through a territory they don't feel y'all deserve to be walking through, they're going to beat you up. So what's fair is fair. You got weapons, we deserve to have weapons too.
Arm against you.
Why would they want to arm against me?
Yes.
I can give you a very good reason. If this TV camera
You
can
make it
pick
sound like
this
it's
up,
personal.
here it is.
Is this him?
Get the devil. Get the white devil. Get the man that represents the white power structure. Here's another article. The WAPs want race war. Kill the white racist policeman. Numerous other things here, if you want me to mention them, will say here. Now we've got to get these 4-legged and 2-legged beasts. We know none of them, the brothers and sisters, are going to stand for this dog business.
Well, what's the motive behind this sort of? What's the motive behind this sort of propaganda, Mr. Kowaleski?
I'll tell you what it is: to stir up the hostility between the police and the members of the minority group. You saw 2 perfect examples here tonight of why there is hostility toward the police. Just take one good long look at Reverend Clee when he says that we are the enemy, that we are the invader. And this is the man that says here that white policemen are the ones who are enforcing the laws for the white power structure. What is Reverend Clee going to do when he gets... What's Reverend Clee going to...
Well, you know, at one time, many precincts would not hire black people. And then if you live in a dominant neighborhood where it's black people, basically you're all living under the same condition. And it seems like people of your condition of living are being tortured by police. This is why the Reverend said, as black people, we see what's going on, and we will no longer tolerate this. It's time that we take a stand. So it seems like in some situations, you don't have the right to take a stand. And as before this man speak, the previous man, it's like, look, y'all invading neighborhoods. And that's what you're doing. And that's how they feel about us. If you're going to a white dominant neighborhood, even back in the days, you know what I'm saying, like old 1400s or whatever, but I'm saying modern times, you're going to rural neighborhoods, like more of an Irish neighborhood, and you black, they're going to run you out the neighborhood. They're going to chase you out the neighborhood. But then black people messed up because they felt like, look, if these Irish kids, these Italian kids can chase us out of our neighborhood, we're going to start doing the same thing, protect our neighborhood. But in some cases, they didn't get Italians invading their neighborhood. They didn't get the other race invading their neighborhood. It was their own, our own invading our own neighborhoods, and they be like, we gotta hold the block down. You can't come between 143rd and some other street, and then in the process, they don't even hold down the neighborhood because you got these old people. A lot of times, they don't pay attention to these old people. They have these shootouts. They don't get the old people out the way. So if you're going to protect your neighborhood, that consists of you protecting the kids. That consists of you protecting the elderly. That consists of you protecting you and who is your crew or your friends or your comrades or your niggas or your homies or your whatever the fuck they be saying. Nah, it's deeper than that. And then they feel like that area is their territory and their territory belongs to the state. So then they become scuffling, fighting, shooting, stabbing each other on property that they feel they're defending that no one owns.
Mr. Kovaleski, let me ask you a question. I'd like to know from Mr. Kovaleski, number one, if he knows of any case in the black community where there are automatic weapons.
Do I know of any case?
Yes.
Wasn't it recently that we just rounded up 15 people in the city of Newark for an arsenal of automatic weapons?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe
no,
so?
I don't believe so.
Why don't you read the Newark Evening News?
I do. I read it very
when
closely.
You're in there, Mr.
I read it very closely.
Mr. Kerman, I'd like to
also
ask you a
If
question.
I gave you this file here that's filled with hundreds of people that have been locked up for carrying guns recently.
I'd like to ask you another question, Mr. Kovaleski.
Right.
Do you believe that there has ever been a case of police brutality against a black citizen in the city of Newark?
Now, that all depends on what you consider to be police brutality. I'm going to answer your
physical
question.
abuse of a citizen in the city. Physical abuse in the city.
Now, listen, if I was to say that...
Do you believe that there has ever been a case?
An isolated
Let me tell you one little story. Let me tell you one little story. Let me tell you one little story, Mr. Kovaleski. There was a woman by the name of Ida Brown. She was arrested by 2 police officers and charged with assaulting them.
In Newark?
In Newark. She was Negro. She was brought to trial. In a conversation during the trial, a prosecutor heard these police officers talk about how they had rigged this story against this woman. He removed himself from the case and took the witness stand himself and testified as to what he had heard. The case was dismissed. The interesting thing is that these 2 police officers have still to today not had charges brought against them for perjury or either departmental charges.
I would like to ask you a question.
Mr. Kerman, I'll answer that. I don't know about the departmental charges, but I know that as a result of that particular incident...
Were there perjury charges filed against these police officers?
Well, listen, that's up to the county prosecutor. It's not up to the Newark police.
What do you mean it's up to the Newark police?
I said it's not up to the Newark police.
Why isn't it up to the Newark police? You think they should still be on the police force? If they could rig a story against a citizen and then bring him into court? This woman was convicted in municipal court, and she had to win this case on appeal. If this prosecutor had not been willing, in fact, to admit that he heard these men say these things, she still would have been convicted in the higher court.
Let me say this, Mr. Kerman. To admit that to say that there aren't isolated cases of police brutality would be a bold-faced lie.
Let me tell you another story.
Now, back in the time, I forgot what timeline, but, people used to chase people down, and sometimes they would take our whole family because they consider you to be a witch. So they go on a witch hunt, string you up on a tree, burn your body, you're a witch. So if you think about a witch hunt back in the days when they come with the picnic, how they used to take their kids out of school, look for some black people, take them somewhere and torture them. So they would pick out blacks to torture them. That's not a witch hunt, because you couldn't pick out your own kind, or you can find other neighborhoods of different ethnic races and do the same thing to them that you were doing to the Negroes? Why must the Negroes go through this?
Let me tell you another story, Mr. Kovaleski.
Make this one brief, Mr. Kerwin, because I want to get to Mr. Harrington, who was rather rudely interrupted a minute ago.
During the rebellion in the city of Newark, I was asked to meet with the governor of New Jersey, Governor Richard Hughes. After the meeting, he pulled me aside and said to me, you know, Bob, I heard that the police are out to get you. I want to give you my card in case you run into anybody that's going to do anything to you, and tell them that you met with me and you know me. What about that, where a governor, in fact, can hear that police officers are out to get someone in the community?
Could that be because your plants went to the governor and made this?
Ain't what be funny about this political stuff? Because he said a governor gave him a card and was like, anything goes down, you need to call me. But my thing is, a governor, why didn't you weed these people out or form a team to weed these people out? It's crazy. So you give me a card, they catch me somewhere, according to this timeline, even though it's the 70s, beat my ass. Lava beat me so bad, pull off to where I die if I don't get emergency help. So I guess a car could help maybe, but depending on the officers back then, they ain't gonna care about that until the after effect. And that's when they get worried. They'll be like, oh my God, this Negro was really connected?
Complaint like you have set up?
I don't have any plans, Mr. Kovalevsky. I don't have any plans.
Don't give me that.
Mr.
I'll
Harrington,
give you what the facts are, buddy.
Mr. Harrington, I interrupted you a moment ago. I hope it wasn't completely off a train of thought. Do you have something that you want to come in with now?
Yes, I had about 15 things if I had the chance to come back and say them. But now that I got the mic, why, I'd like to say all of them. Number one, in the city of Philadelphia here, a colored man came forward and squealed on RAM.
On what, sir?
RAM. It's a colored organization. A Revolutionary Action Movement. Now, this organization had hired him to shoot and kill the police commissioner, the mayor of Philadelphia, the district attorney of Philadelphia. And he pointed out to the police and to the FBI where the potassium cyanide was stashed away, so that when they started the riot, they were going to poison 1,500 policemen. Now, I want to...
Now, I said earlier talking codes. I just didn't want to stop it because I'm not one of those people that's constantly stopping. But the dude keep mixing, like, the number 6. Come on, I got 15 things to say. Like I said, 1 + 5. So I never really been one into numerology, and I just recently got into that maybe like about 7 years ago because of certain things I was watching different people, and everybody talking about numerology, and there's different forms out there. But the numerology they use, like how they speaking in codes now, is how a lot of their groups within their groups communicate with each other in the public, in private, but in public, people like you and I, we supposed to be blind to all this. Like right in our face, as we be saying. They be doing this stuff right in our face. How can people be so stupid?
Asked this reverend over in Detroit, who is the leader of the colored people in Detroit? Because I have a book here, Reader's Digest, which is a very respected book, and it states that the New York Times said,
over 20 years ago, I bought one single
executive secretary of the NAACP in the city of Detroit condemns the police because they didn't put force into the riot area soon enough. Now, do they want force or don't they want force? I also hear about this high-powered rifle and so forth. In this same book, it tells you how they do it in the other countries. In the other countries, they arm their police riot squads with machine guns. They have special lead capes in England. And all over the world, they're giving their police the tools to do the job. Now, the people have to make their mind up. Do they want riots? Let me finish now. I didn't interrupt you.
Well, I'm sort of in a tough spot here,
well,
Mr.
I know you are, but you're always shortcutting us. Now,
if there is a riot, and it's not a violent riot, we know some unviolent riots have gotten very violent. We know some riots has been proven that police was involved, and that's what hyped it up and then turning out from being peaceful into some other craziness. So what here is kind of like the ping pong, as I tell people, this is what politics do, and high police officers ranking is ping pong. They go back and forth with you, but don't give you nothing. Nothing. So he's saying, yo, people want protection. They want us. But then they like, why do the police gotta come? Do we really, really need police? Come on, people. You Negroes got to make up your mind. Do you want us to be there to, protect and kill you? Or do you want us to not just back off and y'all handle your own business?
Let us have our say, and we might as well go
I
home.
don't think we're shortcutting you, Mr. Harrington, and if you don't mind, we're going down to Chief Jenkins in Atlanta
I'll tell you
at
that
this
because
particular
I don't
point.
think you're giving us a fair shake.
We'll get back to you. Chief Jenkins, can you pull some of these strings together from your point of view and get some balance out of this discourse?
Well, I'd like to say at this point that I regret that more police chiefs did not appear on this program tonight because I don't think they've been well represented. Now, this program, I think, has emphasized that this nation has a very serious problem that we must find the answer to it. Now, the first order of business must always be law and order and justice for all. Now, the causes must be identified and they must be corrected. And that is exactly what we're determined to do here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'd like for Reverend Williams to speak on that also.
Thank you very much, Chief. I've listened to the dialogue which has been going on here, and I know that the gentleman in New...
Now, with the Atlanta officer, he sound like, okay, look, man, he could be in here, or it could just be good for the press to say, yo, the officer in Atlanta, he's better than the other ones, Philadelphia, Detroit, New Jersey. He wants to change and he wants to help the people. He might be sincere like that. Short point, all these people that's conducting this program, what color are they as a people? All the police officers, they have shown in this video is of what complexion? And yet, we talking about black neighborhoods, Negro neighborhoods, poor urban neighborhoods, democratic neighborhoods. As the man said earlier, he's like, yeah, because the Democrats don't want this. Like, we don't think they want this big gun like this. But the Democrats, when you do a lot of researching and levering the playing field, a lot of the Democratic neighborhoods is a dystopia. A dystopia. And then people out there, you got to vote Democrat because the Republicans don't want us. You know who don't want you? Neither one.
We'll have some problems, but I don't think we've been talking about what really concerns us. One of the things that I'd like us to get back on, and this is the question of white fear, and the fact that the police department in the city of Detroit is arming itself with the Stoner rifle seems to me to lend support to the claim of the minorities in that city that they have something to fear. I certainly share the opinion of somebody who said this is not the sort of thing we want in a democratic society. Now, one of the things that we've got to understand is that white citizens do not have the same reason to complain as Negroes do against the police department.
Why is that so, Reverend?
This is so because policemen do make a difference in the treatment of Negro citizens and whites.
Why is that so?
That is so because they belong to a majority race of people who in this nation feel that there ought to be a difference made between Negroes and whites. Anybody in his sane mind knows that in America we have made differences between white and Negroes for a long time, and the majority of the whites still feel Negroes are inferior to whites, and that they ought to be treated differently. Policemen are no different in this regard. I think the police department in Atlanta is working on the problem. We haven't cured it by any means. There are some policemen on our department here who haven't gotten the message yet that we're moving into a new era, and that they must themselves reorganize their attitude toward people. And when we talk about the hostility the police departments have, we've got to realize that I think most of these policemen feel they are representing the majority of the people in the community. I think in Atlanta, Georgia, when the police department knows that all of the citizens, including Negroes and whites, do not condone any of the skullduggery which they may engage in, it will stop. It'll happen in Detroit when white citizens support other citizens in that city. Seeing that policemen deal justly with all citizens, you will not have the same kind of problem. Now, anybody...
Reverend Williams,
yes.
time is running out on us. We're going to get back to you, I hope.
What I'm about to reveal to you can change you and your family's
All right, that's the end of it. Like I said, leave some comments. Let me know what you think about this. Email and watch the whole thing. Wherever you hear about it, let's talk about this. Because a lot of what's going on then in the 70s is still taking place right now. So with that, have a good night. God bless. More love to you. I'm out.